everyone! Today's video is going to be all about eyeshadows. I'm going to be doing the Another Palette tag, originally created by Baute, who I'm sure you guys all know, but I will have her channel and original video linked down below in my description box. So there are 9 questions and I am really excited to get started. So the first question is your first palette. So I had a few of those jumbo drugstore palettes, the really cheap ones with the very chalky eyeshadows. I remember a few small drugstore palettes as well, but it feels like a lifetime ago. So in my current makeup life, my first palette would have been the Too Faced Shadow Bonbons palette, like my first real eyeshadow palette, and it was not a good one. I really did not enjoy that palette at all. I showed it a little bit at the very early stages of my channel, and at some point I did declutter it, and I did show and talk about it in that video where I decluttered it and why, and I had no usage on it. I didn't like it. I've come around a little bit more to Too Faced shadows recently, but these ones were not good. There is a mix of mattes and some like shimmery glitter shades. I used like the gold shade the most, of course I did, and there was a dark brown shade that I was using at one point to fill in my eyebrows, which was just not a good decision on my part because it was just not a good color match for my eyebrows, and it was not good. But those were like the 2 most used shadows, and for a beginner, it really was not beginner friendly, but I was just so drawn to it. The good thing about that palette was that it had come with a sample of eyeshadow primer, which changed my life. Even though I don't use the Too Faced one, I use the Urban Decay one, and that was like the first eyeshadow primer I had used, so really that had a huge impact on me because it showed me that there was something I could put on my lids that made eyeshadow last, which made me want to play with eyeshadow more. Just that palette, that was not the right one for me. The second question is your most recent purchase. So I actually purchased 2 eyeshadow palettes at the same time. I purchased 2 Morphe palettes. So I bought the 35O, the original, and the 35O2. So the 35O is still in its little packaging because I'm going to be doing a first impressions on that in the next day or 2. I just looked at it long enough to make sure that it hadn't shattered and it was still in good condition. I was having a really bad day when these palettes arrived, and I knew I was going to use one of them because I just really needed a pick-me-up. And as soon as I looked at the 35O2 palette, I needed to use it. I needed to use it, and it's pretty much all I've used in the last couple of days. So there's this little insert with the shadow names on it, but this is my happy place in a palette, and I'll actually talk about it more in a second because it's the answer to another question. But I just wanted to show you guys this really quick because this is the newest purchase that I've played with, and then the 35O original I will play with very soon, and you guys will see that. I'm gonna film my first impressions with the original 35O. Anyway, moving on, the third question is one you regret missing out on. So there's really not a whole lot of regrets I have. Mostly they're Urban Decay eyeshadows, and I can think of 3 palettes that I would buy if they were re-released now. I have no interest in buying an old palette. I'll just put that out there. Like, I'm not looking to collect it, I would be looking to use it. So the 3 things that I wish that I had that I don't is the original Vice palette, because I have or had all of the other Vice palettes. They are some of my favorites of Urban Decay, and I just really wasn't into eyeshadow when the first Vice palette came out. I also regret not picking up the Glinda and Theodora palettes, the Oz palettes that Urban Decay did. The thing that appeals to me the most about those palettes now that didn't before is that they're reusable, that there's full-sized shadows in there for the most part, and you can finish a shadow and then replace it with another one. You can pop in one of the standard Urban Decay eyeshadow singles into the palette and you reuse it, and I just think the containers are really cute. I would definitely use them a lot, but at the time it didn't appeal to me because I wanted smaller sized pans, I wanted different things, and I think I was fighting too hard to resist it, and I regret it now. You know, if Urban Decay was going to re-release them, I think I would buy them. Like, I'm not gonna hunt them down, but yeah. In a perfect world, they'll come back and I'll buy them then. The fourth question is one that makes you happy to look at. So this right now is the Morphe 3502 palette. So it changes depending on what I'm using and what I'm gravitating towards, but just recently, like if I'm feeling down and out and kind of crappy, I just look at this palette and it makes me happy because these are the tones that I love to wear. I love orangey tones and stuff on my eyes. I feel like it really makes the blue pop. It just makes me so happy. Some of these shades are so bright. Like the mattes are good, the shimmers are good. It's all around good. I've had really fantastic luck with these shadows. Like every one that I've used so far has blended really well. The longevity has been amazing. So it's not just how the shadows look, but also because I know the quality is good that makes me happy. Like, and there's still pigment on my finger. Like this is insane. There's this bright shade, like it's insane. It's insane. I'm so happy with this palette, and just every time I'm dipping into it, it just makes me happy. Like I said, there's been some stuff going on and it's been a little rough, but at least I have a little bit of sunshine in that palette. So I'm happy. I'm very happy with it, to say the least. Question 5 is one you've changed your mind about. So I was thinking, is there something that I've changed my mind about for better or for worse? And I think it has to be for worse. Unfortunately, the Modern Renaissance palette. I know. If this was like recorded in front of a live studio audience, I could hear the gasps right now. Yeah, I hear you guys, I hear it, but I don't like it as much as I liked it before. Just having used other things, and I guess now that these shades that I like, the reds and the oranges, are more popular now than they were when Modern Renaissance first came out, and I have more variations of them and I have them in different formulas that I like better, I rarely reach for this anymore. Like together, it's perfect color scheme wise. Like there's very little that I would want to change about this. Just because I'm that hateful person, I'd probably take like antique bronze out and put in a black because I actually really like black eyeshadow. But other than that, like it's all perfect. All these shades are really good, but it's the formula that just I don't like as much. I'd rather reach for the shadows that I feel more comfortable using. Like I'll reach for oranges and reds and pinks that are from MAC or Makeup Geek or Urban Decay, Kat Von D, things like that even. And I do have my struggles with Kat Von D, but I don't love this like I used to love it. When it first came out, I thought this was the most amazing thing ever. And, you know, props to Anastasia for sort of leading the trend for this, but it just doesn't do it for me like it used to. But speaking of Anastasia, question 6 is something that surprised you. And I have to say Subculture. I do. So despite all the things that I don't like about the Modern Renaissance palette and I dislike about Anastasia's formula in general, there's been a lot of discussion about the Subculture palette, as I'm sure you are all aware by now. And I'm one of the people that likes this palette. I like this palette a lot. The formula in Subculture is different from Modern Renaissance, but I'm more likely to pick up Subculture right now than Modern Renaissance. And I have figured out ways to use this palette to my advantage. I have to change the way I do things because I can't go as heavy-handed with this palette as I do with some of my other shadows, and like I like to do, honestly. I like to blend hard. It's just kind of therapeutic for me. So having to go in with a light hand and being a little bit more precise is not easy for me to do. Like I'm not technically proficient, to put it nicely. So I really have to force myself to take time and be patient with this palette, but it ends up turning out beautifully. All the looks I've done with this palette have ended up looking so good because the shadows blend so well together, and I have to take more time than I normally do. I normally am very, very quick with doing my eyeshadows, and with this palette I have to be slow if I want it to look good, but then it looks phenomenal. So I'm surprised that I liked this as much as I do, just because there's been such a large divide between the people who love and hate this palette. So I truly thought that I would have disliked this, and I was pleasantly surprised that I love it very much. Question 7 is one that inspires you the most. And if you've been here for a little while, this should come as absolutely no surprise to you guys. The KVD Mi Vida Loca palette. So this was a limited edition palette that is hopefully going to be coming back at some point because it's pretty much the perfect palette. It's really close to being the perfect palette for me. I've said a few times I would swap this middle neutral section for something else, which I'll talk about again really soon. But all these colors in here, like if I'm ever stumped for something, I can just look at this palette and I can just let it guide me in some way. I can just be inspired by this in so many different ways. Like I will put on music, look at this palette, and just figure something out. I'll look at pictures of nature and whatever sort of color combinations I want to do, this palette has it. Or I can mix things together to get the shades that I want. Like I never have to think about it. If I want to do something colorful, this palette has it all for me. This is just, the formula of this is so good. I think KVD has changed her formula since doing this palette, which is really kind of disappointing to me because these shadows are so easy to use. They basically blend themselves. I did a Tom Petty tribute tutorial using this palette and it was so easy to blend everything together. Like I said in that video, like the shadows blend themselves. You don't have to work at all. It is just so good. Out of all of the eyeshadow palettes I have, this is the one I value the most because this is irreplaceable. This is the thing that if I lost all my makeup that I would cry over. Like everything else I'd be like, I can get new ones. This one, no. This is just so special to me. I love looking at it. I love using it. The packaging is not my favorite because I like having a mirror with my palettes, but you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. I had to do that. So question 8 is one on your wish list. And you know what? I actually don't have anything on my wish list right now. Yes, I have those hypothetical like dream scenarios, like if I won $1 million, I'd probably buy all the Viseart palettes, but there's nothing that I'm like saving for, nothing I'm looking forward to. There's nothing that I want that I don't already have. I got the Morphe palettes, those were on my wish list, and I ended up buying them when they came to Ulta, so I don't have anything on my wish list. I hate to say that because I don't like not answering a question, but it's just the truth. I don't have anything on my wish list right now. And the final question is, what is your no-fail palette? And this was probably the easiest question for me to answer. The Urban Decay Naked Basics palette. And this is the only palette that I've completely panned and repurchased because I love it that much. So this is a very neutral palette. It's not very exciting, but it's no fail, it's foolproof, and I can do a variety of looks with this palette. And I can add in other things as I desire, like pops of color, colorful eyeliner, glitter, but I can do very simple, basic, neutral, everyday looks using some of these lighter shades here. I can do my dramatic winged shadow look with the black in the outer corner faded in. I can do a full black smoky eye. Like I have options, and then within those sort of core shapes that I would do with these shadows, like if I did a black smoky eye similar to this with this palette, I could do a little bit of glitter in the inner corner, I could do a color in the inner corner, I could just put colorful eyeliner on. You know, you have options there. There's other things that you can do and things that I have done with using this palette, like when I was panning it. So I love this palette. This is the palette that goes with me everywhere. If I ever travel, if I ever go anywhere and need to bring makeup with me, this is the palette that goes with me. And then I just pick a few things to go with it to complement it depending on what I'm into. But this is just a thing that I'll reach for time and time again. Am I going out somewhere? Do I have an important meeting? Do I need my makeup to last all day? Do I need my eyeshadow to look good? This is what I use. So definitely the easiest question to answer. So easy because it's such a good palette. Those middle neutral shadows in the KVD Mi Vida Loca palette, like if I could replace those with the ones in here and have all those colorful shadows, like that would be absolute perfection for me. Put it in a neat little traveling case and that would be the most perfect palette to ever exist. I would have the best of everything. The colorful and the neutrals and the formulas I like that work so well for me. So yeah, that is everything for the another palette tag. This was a lot of fun. I loved sharing my thoughts and opinions with you guys as they are right now. I think it would be really fun to revisit this again in like a year's time and see how things have changed. Do I still feel the same way about some things? Obviously something like my first palette isn't going to change, but things like what makes me happy and my recent purchase and, you know, things on my wish list could very well change, very likely change, and it would be interesting to see how it differs. So if you haven't done this tag, I'd be really interested to see you do it. And if you did do this tag, maybe you want to do it again and see how things have changed. Because I don't think there's any rules with tags. I don't think you can only do it once. I think it's really interesting when people come back to something that they did before and just really see how they've grown and changed as a person. So anyway, that is all for me. Please let me know if you have done this tag or if you're going to do this tag so I can go watch your video if I haven't already. And let me know if there's any other tags you would like to see from me because I'd like to incorporate a few more here and there. So that's everything. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. And I hope I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.